As of the time of this upload, the Final Fantasy VII Remake is already out, and I so want to talk about it. But first, we have one more game to cover. Final Fantasy is a series of RPGs. However, this game takes a shot at a completely different genre. A shooter. The idea of a shooter came from none other than producer Yoshinori Kitase. Several characters were considered as the main characters, such as Yuna from Final Fantasy X, Irvine from Final Fantasy VIII, and Barret from Final Fantasy VII. While I do have a small wish for a Final Fantasy X-3, as well as a desire for a Final Fantasy VIII spin-off game. By the way, Square, can we get a Crisis Core 2 Final Fantasy VIII starring Laguna Loire? To be blunt though, I do think 7 has enough games under its belt, but they ultimately decided to go with Vincent Valentine from Final Fantasy VII as the main character. Vincent Valentine is one of my favorite characters from Final Fantasy VII, along with Tifa and Cloud. However, I did not play this game until last year, and I am just now beating it for the first time. Why is that? I did not have a PS2 growing up. I had a Nintendo 64 and a GameCube. My first non-Nintendo console was the Xbox 360, and I bought a PS4 and Vita sometime while I was in university. I own a PS3 and PS2 now, but I tried waiting for this game to come to PSN, but it never did. Neither did Crisis Core, which sold really well. Hajime Tabata wanted to remake Before Crisis for the 3DS, but that never happened. You figured since these games have the Final Fantasy VII name attached to it that it would make easy money for Square to re-release, but anyway. I have procrastinated on playing this game due to average review scores and people throughout the internet not thinking too highly of this game, but are they right? Or is this a game I like that everyone hates? Well, let's jump right in and find out. The reasons why Vincent Valentine is one of my favorite characters from Final Fantasy VII is 1. His design is awesome. Red and black is my favorite color combination, and 2. He has a pretty interesting, though depressing backstory. About 30 years before the events of Final Fantasy VII, Vincent was a Turk who fell in love with a scientist named Lucrezia. Lucrezia is Sephiroth's biological mother. Though I do wonder, does Sephiroth know he has a human mother? I mean, in the games, he never acknowledges it and calls Genova, who is an alien, his mother because he carries some of her genes, but anyway. Vincent and Lucrezia did become close, however, Lucrezia also worked with Vincent's father, Grimoire Valentine. Her and Grimoire discover a great beast named Chaos, which is Vincent's level 4 limit break, and upon this discovery, Grimoire dies. When Vincent finds out about this, he still loves Lucrezia and wants a relationship with her. However, Lucrezia felt horribly guilty even though the beast was responsible, and went to Hojo, who is a mad scientist that sees people as nothing more than potential science experiments. Hojo and Lucrezia get married, and that would make Hojo the father of Sephiroth. Hojo decided to inject Genova cells into Lucrezia, which then goes into Sephiroth as a fetus for science experiment. Vincent confronts Hojo about this, and then Hojo shoots him in the chest and did science experiments on him as well. Sephiroth burning down Nibelheim is even more understandable now. Hojo then discards Vincent as a failed experiment. Lucrezia, who is devastated by this, tries to keep Vincent alive by making him a container for the beast Chaos. And to control the beast within, Lucrezia puts what is called a proto-materia inside his body. And now Vincent is basically Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Vincent is now immortal. Lucrezia and Vincent both feel guilty for what happened, and to atone, Lucrezia imprisons herself inside a giant crystal. Poor mother never got to hold her baby Sephiroth. Vincent sleeps in a coffin for 20 years until the events of Final Fantasy VII, and then fast forwarding to the end of Final Fantasy VII. Vincent and Yuffie, by the way, I like how Yuffie looks more mature in this game, evacuate the city of Midgar as a meteorite falls. And then fast forward 3 years later, which is when this game takes place. We now have the conflict between Deep Ground and the World Regenesis Organization, WRO for short. The WRO is led by Reeve, who remote controls Ketchi, and they are basically trying to save the planet. Deep Ground, which is a secret Shinra organization of super soldiers on the other hand, basically want to take everything from the planet Gaia and move to a new planet. Why? Because Deep Ground is led by Hojo, only Hojo is dead, but he basically uploaded his consciousness to the internet and was downloaded to Vice. And now he lives on through Vice to try to rule the cosmos, kind of like how Sephiroth did. Tried to do at least. And that's basically the Cliff Notes version of this game's plot. I like seeing more backstory on Vincent and seeing the relationship between him and Lucrezia flesh out. There are new characters such as Rosso the Crimson, Nero, Vice, Shalua, and Shulk. And Azul, who is also a main character, also appeared in Before Crisis. Shalua dies in the story, but does not get enough screen time or character development for me to be emotionally invested. Shulk I find to be a plot device who mainly advances the plot. The Sviets, which are the rest of the characters I mentioned, are basically the Elite Four of Deep Ground. While I do like the further development of Vincent and his story, I find this game and Advent Children's plot to be a little just there and a bit on the side of fanfiction. Dirge of Cerberus is a third-person shooter. You shoot some enemies with either a 3-barrel pistol, rifle, machine gun, etc. You can also modify your weapons as well as add materia. I like using fire and ice materia as sort of a hand grenade and lightning against machines. There are different enemies, but I found myself killing most of them the same way. I never really felt the need to switch up my arsenal. It's just load them with lead and blow them up with fire magic. As for the boss fights, yeah, all I do in these is use Vincent's limit break to become the Galleon Beast and just shoot fireballs at them. And the bosses that are hard just drain my resources more than anything. Besides killing enemies, you have one instance where you do stealth as Ketchi and fly around as Chaos, blowing stuff up. Vincent also has this melee attack that he uses his golden gauntlet for, and I ended up using this a lot. I can't help but probably think they should have considered gameplay like Devil May Cry. I mean, I know Vincent is more of a ranged fighter, but that golden gauntlet looks dangerous enough. I mean, why not consider a mechanic similar to the Devil Breakers from Devil May Cry 5? Yeah, I don't really have much to say about the gameplay. I played this game on normal and there is hard mode, but seeing as this is a shooter with RPG elements, I mean, grind it out and you'll be able to do hard mode just fine. Even though I didn't try hard mode. There are extra missions after you beat the game, which replaces the multiplayer the game was going to have, but honestly, I checked out on this game before reaching the end. Don't get me wrong, I did beat the story, but if you want more out of this game, the extra missions are there for you, but as for me, I'm good. A game starring Vincent Valentine, one of my favorite characters from FF7, sounds awesome, but this game to me was just another shooter, unfortunately. I can't think of any major flaws that ruined the experience for me, but I can't exactly say anything amazing either. Well, there is one level I can criticize. I do question this game's checkpoint system. I didn't really die much due to always having a Phoenix down on him, but when I got to the sniper part after chapter 3, I died after some story progression, and ended up respawning at the beginning of the chapter. Not only that, but they want me to snipe these enemies in the distance while they are firing at me from all directions? Yeah, no thanks. Although, one thing I really like about this game more than other Square Enix games, healing takes effect immediately on button press instead of a short animation that delays it by a second or so. I really hate how in Kingdom Hearts, you do a command input for cure or potion and the effect is delayed a second. It happens in Crisis Core too. It's pretty frustrating when you get so low on health and you press the button to heal yourself, your enemy can just come in and knock you out during that delay. I wonder why more of Square Enix's games do not follow this game's example in regards to healing. Oh, and there is this mobile game that's Dirge of Cerberus Lost Chapter. It's an extra chapter with the gameplay of this game minimized and it's no longer playable. I Google searched a way to play it and yep, I totally missed out on it. I think the character models look great, although there are some environments that are a little bland, I think, and though I will say the use of red in some of these levels do complement Vincent's character design. And I get it, Vincent is a dark character, so darker colors would suit a game starring him. The music, there are some good pieces here, but not a lot stands out to me personally. And the voice acting?
Hail, Vice.
Yeah, I've heard better to say the least.
Why? I'm the one who should apologize.
Although, don't get me wrong, I do think Vincent's voice is pretty fitting for him. Also, at this one cutscene, it seems like some sound effects are missing. And I really do like the Advent Children quality FMVs. Cause, like I said, I like seeing animation from Square Enix. So, yeah, Final Fantasy VII may be my favorite game of all time, but this spin-off game in particular is... The game runs well, is not glitchy, and it looks good, which is why it's not any lower than a 5. However, for me, this is a one and done game. Again, it is not a bad game, but I would say you could be playing something better. If it was the year 2006, I'd say rent this one. If you like this game, hey, I am happy for you. However, I can't even recommend this to Final Fantasy fans. I can only recommend this to just fans of Final Fantasy VII. Third-person shooter fans, I would recommend you not go out of your way for this one. I'd say stick to Resident Evil, Gears of War, or Uncharted. Hope you guys liked the video, and if you did, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. With that being said, oh boy, am I so excited to be talking about the Final Fantasy VII Remake next time. I look forward to seeing you guys then.